you are in for a treat today. Today, I am excited to share a conversation with Mohamed Amer. Mohamed has a rich history, corporate history, military history, so many pieces and parts to this conversation, but he's also a PhD, and we're going to talk about his PhD work and the unique perspective that brings that he brings to just the world, the way we look at things, but also to advisory boards. And so I am excited this extended conversation that I had with Mohamed. And I know that by listening to this, whether you're an advisor, whether you're a CEO, whether you're somebody who serves in a capacity supporting advisory boards, small business, large business, whatever role you play, this conversation will be valuable to you. So buckle up. Here we go. Mohamed Amer, welcome to the Advisory Board Insider podcast. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. How are you?
I am great. It's great to have you on the show today. So let's begin with your coordinates. Where exactly are you in the world today?
So today I am in Ventura, California, and that's about halfway between Malibu and Santa Barbara, if you can kind of visualize that.
Got it. All right. So let's begin with your morning drink of choice. I don't know why I've decided to do this crazy thing on this show, but like what's your typical morning drink of choice? What do you drink to start the day?
Well, it's a little bit complicated, but the short answer is it's tea, just regular
Okay.
tea. But in reality, the very first thing that I drink is warm water with lemon, half a lemon. I do a little bit of uh, intermittent fasting. So
Yep.
the first how I break it in the morning is through that warm water and lemon, and then after that I have my tea and I'm set. I'm ready to go, and it's decaf. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't
Okay.
need the caffeine to get to get going.
You've got lots of energy working for you to begin with. So, how do you start your days? So you just mentioned that you start with lemon. But like, what's an average day when you're starting it look like? Like, are you an early riser? Are you crack of dawn? Are you 4 in the morning? What's your normal start of day look like?
I have an early start.
Do
My
you?
normal start is between 4:30 to 4:45 is when I wake up, and I rarely, if ever, use an alarm clock. It just the body just it doesn't matter whether it's Monday or Sunday. That's when I'll wake up and get going. Um,
And so you get going, and is that when you have your water, or do you do you read? Do you go for a walk? What's your start of the day routine?
yeah,
How have you or has it evolved over time?
yeah.
What's the thing that gets you started?
I usually walk.
Oh, okay.
So right off the bat, I'll wake up. Within 5-10 minutes, I'm ready to go. The brain's turned on, body's ready to
Yeah.
go, all freshened up. Um, and I will do a walk, listening maybe to NPR, listening to some old time radio shows.
Mm,
Then I'll get into a sequence of reading digitally the newspaper, the LA Times, New York Times. I tend to look at the newspapers and their breaking news versus relying on curated news feed that's delivered by an app or something like
right.
that.
Right. Got it. Okay. So that gives us a sense of where you are in the world, how your morning unfolds. Let's start with your history. So take me back to roughly 1974. And I don't know what's special about 1974, but I was playing on your LinkedIn profile, and I assume that's before you went off to college. And so, what's happening in your life in that sort of pre-college time frame?
Yeah.
What's happening? What are you dreaming about? What are you thinking about for your life?
Well, I was born in Egypt. So
Okay.
came here as a young preteen,
Okay.
and it for someone like myself and my sister, very exciting. For
Mhm.
my parents, scarier than anything.
Oh,
There's no
yeah.
job necessarily. It's a real immigration, file, paperwork, all that.
Yeah.
You have your green card, but you arrive and there isn't necessarily a job that's waiting for
Mhm.
you. There isn't your here's your living arrangement. Your ecosystem support is thousands of miles away. So
Mhm.
as I look back at those days, I'm going like, how in the world did my parents take a major leap like that? But they did it for myself and my sister for a better
Mm.
life. So 1974, we've been in the US for a few years, still in high school, and my dreams, my hopes, my aspirations are all about how do I pay back my parents? How do I
Mm.
fulfill the dreams they have for me? And that equates to, of course, you go to college. That was a no-brainer, but you got to be a doctor, an engineer, something like that. That is uh, has a certain caliber, has a certain cachet. It ensures your future. It says yes, the sacrifices that were made were worth it, et
Mm.
cetera, et cetera. So that was the whole mentality, and you don't realize it as a 16, 17-year-old that you're really living somebody else's
Yeah.
projections. You're not
Yeah.
really true to yourself. You don't even think of that. At least I
Right.
certainly did not. Maybe
Oh, yeah.
today's youth are far more ahead
Yes.
in that sense. So it wasn't until I was really in college that I began to think about that. And am I really going down the right path that I wish for myself as a pre-med student and so on. But 1974 was that transition kind of from high school to college, and it also happens to be the year that I met my wife.
Oh.
So we were high school sweethearts.
So, delightful, and so, you meet your wife, you choose to go to college. You just said pre-med, but, so what's the decision sequence? So, you want this kinda life for yourself. What do you choose, and why do you choose that specific? So, you said pre-med, so I
Right.
saw a biology degree on
Yep.
your resume.
Yeah. So I thought pre-med was a major, but no, it was like a direction that you take, and discovered towards the end of my junior year, the registrar at the University of Minnesota says, "Okay, what's your major?" I said, "Pre-med." "No, no, no, no. Your major." I said, "Well, which courses am I closest? Which major am I closest to? Look at all the courses I've
Yeah.
taken and so on." And it was biology, microbiology. I said, "Biology sounds good." So it was really backing into something rather than being, going forward to something, and and that was the major. I my college courses, what I really enjoyed the most were the humanities.
Really?
Things where I did well enough in calculus, physics, chemistries, microbiology, all that stuff, virology. But where I really was intrigued was reading the humanities, reading history, art history, things where multiple aspects of humanity come together, and uh, and that's what I found really intriguing because in math and sciences you have a question, a problem, and you have an
Right.
answer. It's discrete. It is one and only one. There is no maybe, if, fi, But in the humanities, it was like, wow, you can write an essay. You can put your own thoughts and why and how, and it was just like there was no right or wrong, but how well you support it, how well you were able to bring the pertinent information into your essay and so on. So I found that to be just really cool.
Yeah. So did that transition you from that pre-med direction? Did that those humanities, the integration of that into your world? Did that start to change your focus, or did you stay true to the focus, but that was just informing it?
So I had a tremendous appreciation for the scientific method.
Mm,
The experiments, hypotheses, looking for evidence, collecting data, and all that. That's a foundation I still have today. But what I discovered is that the world is not just black and white. It's
right.
not just such simple terms. There are a lot of gray areas, things that I just never appreciated within the science tract.
Mm,
So, uh, where I went was basically that winter. So, a few months before graduation, still on path for a medical school, but not really my heart in it. And this my best friend in college came up and said, "Hey, did you look at the daily today?" And the paper, and he goes, "Look, there's a picture. There was a F-14 banking with clouds." And I said, "You too can fly Navy." He said, "I'm going to interview with the Navy with the submarine guys today. Maybe you want to go talk to them about aviation." And I said, "I don't even I can't comprehend this. I thought you had to go to military academy or something like that." But I did. I went and I talked and I discovered that, hey, as a college graduate, there's another way to get a commission as an officer in the military, Navy, Air Force, etc. And it just all of a sudden opened up a vista that was not there the day before.
interesting.
Fortuitous. Yeah.
So, you did something with that then, because it shows on your resume that in 1978 you end up with the U.S. Navy. So what did you
That's
do
right.
in the Navy?
So in the Navy, I went into aviation officer candidate school. So that was
Okay,
the other path to become an officer. If you had not gone through
right.
the Naval Academy, for example, they were looking for officers that will be in naval aviation. So as an aviator or a naval flight officer, basically a pilot or a co-pilot. And I remember going to the interviews and taking the tests and all that, and at the time, I didn't wasn't even wearing glasses. I didn't realize that I wasn't exactly 20/20 perfect vision, but they said, "That's okay. You can be a naval flight officer. You can tell the pilot where to go." I said, "Okay, that sounds pretty good." So the whole idea was that there was, the Navy, was on a recruiting bin at that point, and they needed people, officers in naval aviation, but they sent you down to Pensacola, Florida,
Mm.
to get that commission. But before they do that, before they do the commitment and you commit to them and all that, they send you down there just for a look see.
Oh, okay.
So they take you down, they fly you down there. You think you're on top of the world. You can do great things, but they show you what you're going to go through. You can see, the pressure, physical pressure, mental pressure, psychological pressure, the stamina that you need, and so on. And they basically weed you out with through that look see visit.
Oh,
So
okay.
people will self select. They said, you know what, I like it, but it's not for me. I said, this is exactly what I want to do. As a little boy in Egypt, I remember during the air raids, I would come out of the shelter outside the basement of the apartment buildings and look at the sky, trying to spot one of the phantoms or MiGs up there, and thinking, "Wow, wouldn't it be cool to be flying up there doing that?" So it's kind of funny to be able to,
Yeah.
9, 10 years later to have an opportunity like that. So
So so to just dig in a bit, so you've done sort of your pre-med process, biology degree. You get this opportunity, you decide to go in the Navy, but what are your parents thinking about this? I'm intrigued by that connection,
sure.
because that's such an important part of your story, which is immigrant parents, and you now are serving in the military for the country they immigrated to.
Yes, and it's interesting in that um, one of the reasons they also left is they didn't. I was the only son, and they didn't want me to be involved in a war and die and so
Yeah.
on. And here I am in my adopted country, my new country,
Yeah.
wanting to be part of the military. And so, so my parents, my father was supportive in his own quiet way. My mom was more vocal, like, "You are making the biggest mistake of your life.
Really?
How can you be doing this? We did this, we did that. You're gonna." I'm jumping the gun a little bit. 10 years later, when I resigned my commission, she goes, "You are making the biggest mistake of your life. How can you resign? You have such a great career. You're doing great. They love you. Blah blah blah.
Uh,
How can you do this?"
right. Beautiful.
But that I'll never forget those two end
Yeah.
points or
Yeah.
those. Yeah,
So looking back at your time in that span of years that you were part of the Navy, what were the biggest lessons, insights that you feel have come along for the journey with you?
yeah.
What are the things that profoundly affected you from that time in your life?
Going through college, I lived at home or off campus, so I didn't have the same kind of socialization that you would have being part of a fraternity or sorority or
Mm,
something like that. And University of
yeah,
Minnesota is at that time even still was huge, 35, 50,000 student
right,
bodies.
right.
So, going in the Navy, it was really a tremendous socialization experience. The camaraderie in the military, and especially in the Navy, when you're involved in a mission where you're putting your life on the line every single time you're doing a sortie,
Yeah.
is nothing that I could have described,
Mm,
understood. I may have read about it, it would not have made much sense.
right.
But actually having experienced that, so that camaraderie, and to this day, I still have very strong relationships with some of the guys that I was in the squadron with, that
Wow.
initial sea tour.
Yeah.
Um, the leadership, you have got to take care of your crew, your troops, shipmates. Um, Otherwise, there is no leadership.
Right. Yeah.
So it's so integrity, uh, your word, those are really things that, unless you've experienced it, unless you've had the opportunity to exercise it and to understand it, uh, it just does not translate when you're just been in the civilian world only. They talk about leadership in boardroom, in C-suite, but it is really managing people.
Mm,
It's different from leadership where you are inspiring somebody, where you have somebody's life in your hands and they
yeah.
have yours in theirs, and you have that reliance, that trust, um, and that common vision of the mission. And that's something that really is very difficult to generate in this in the corporate world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's come along for this long ride with you, those pieces and parts
Yep.
that you got there. But, evidently, you reach the point where your mother says, "No, don't do that, don't quit." What's happening in you that says, "Okay, my time's done?" What's sort of fueling this
Yeah.
desire to keep moving forward?
Yeah. So, the way the Navy and military in general works, they put you out in the field, you taste that, and it's fantastic. You're making things happen. You're creating headlines that people will be reading the paper the next day or something like that, or at least around the corridors in Washington D.C. They pay you back by sending you to get a master's in something, or they send you, but eventually you need to come to Washington D.C., to the Pentagon, to the seat
Mm,
of power,
right,
and that's when you really begin to realize that being in the squadron, being out in the field, that was the fun stuff. Now this is payback. Now you're in the political arena,
oh,
your more administrative things, your policy. Nothing wrong with policy. It's just that how you get things done, then it's more of that organizational politicization process. And And at some point, you ask yourself, how in the world did we get anything done out in the field, out in the squadron, out on the ship, given this
What
this
you're experiencing.
yeah, and the nickname for the Pentagon is the five-sided wind tunnel from all the hot air moving around there. It's just
Uh,
basic. So again, I also appreciated what it takes
yeah.
organizationally to get things done. I just thought it was a very high price to pay for the tip of the spear where I was, and the
Mm,
excitement of the tip of the spear was not the same once I was back there. And that's what made me think about, okay, this is cool. There are ways I can still be at the tip of the spear, but there are trade-offs. Going into CIA, the NSA, DIA, things where I can still be doing similar things because I was in naval intelligence and naval aviation.
mm,
Um, but I decided that, you know what, I've put in 10 one fantastic years. I mean, to this day, I can't imagine a better period in my life where I really packed in a lot of action and activities and growth and self
yeah.
personal development. But let's wrap all that up and see how far I can throw that. Where can it go? What? So I was just as my parents were willing to do something new. I was willing to resign my commission before I was accepted in business school, and I just said, you know what? I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get in because you have to apply within a certain
Yep.
period, but then you have to resign your commission like well
Oh,
before
okay.
that
Yeah.
decision's made. It's not like I can cover my bet here or something. You just have to commit and go for it.
So why business school as opposed to going back to this history that you had created with biology and pre-med? Is there a distinction that happened somewhere along the way that made you think business versus go back to that path that you had started?
Yeah, the biology, chemistry, science, all that. That was that was good to get my foot in the door as a commissioned officer. Without that, I could not have been a
Oh,
commissioned
okay.
officer, right? So I resigned my commission as a lieutenant commander, '04. Uh, but my love was in the action, was in learning new things, was applying it now to organizations, uh, uh, teams. It
Okay.
was no longer looking at research, bacteria and virology,
Mm,
and spending X hours in the lab. No, I wanted to be out doing things, making a difference in people's lives in more directly versus through a test tube, let's
right,
say.
right.
Yeah.
So it seems to me, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but just bear with me. You sense coming out of this world you'd inhabited in the Navy that you could best do that in the context of business. So you go do an MBA. That's where you head, and you do an MBA. And is that sort of a full time gig? You just put your head down and got that done. Tell me a little bit about that, and then where you went from there, and what was the path coming out of that MBA, and how did this desire to actually be in the action and doing really cool things, how did that translate? You get your MBA, and then where do you go? What
Yeah.
happens?
So to transition to the corporate world, you've got to take the skill set and all that you brought in from the military into and apply it there.
Yep.
Well, um, the corporate world doesn't have a whole lot of demands for intelligence analysts or people that fly airplanes or people that did missions around electronic warfare, battle of
Right, right.
order, etc. So the MBA made a lot of sense to gain that credibility, make the
Mm,
transition, be able then to get into general management,
yep.
that sort. Um, so so the and I apologize. Your question was specifically about post MBA, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
kinda where do you go? You get all that, you figure that out, and then you head off on this
yeah,
journey that takes you a lotta like, it sounds to me a little bit like, going back to your childhood, you're on you're kind of going out of this previous world you've been in, multiple worlds, and you go into this brand new world of business
Yep.
and corporate life. Like, where are you going? What are you seeing? What are the opportunities that sort of start emerging for you? Or is it just like whatever comes, I'll take? I'll just walk
Yeah.
wherever I
Yeah.
go.
So when during first of all, I had a terrific 2 years full-time program at Northwestern at
Yeah.
Kellogg, and it was a great place for our kids, for my wife, walking to school. It was just very convenient. I also got to taste things around general management, around uh, merger and acquisitions, marketing, finance, and realized that I really like uh, general management. I like
Mm,
being able to have uh, uh, an operation, a business, and so on, and versus, let's say, going to Wall Street and doing something like that,
right.
moving piles of money
Money.
from one
Yeah.
side to another side and getting a cut
Yeah.
was less interesting than dealing with people,
Yeah.
emotions, building teams, getting people pointing in the right direction, and all that. So that made a lot of sense. Uh, also, gave me an appreciation for spreadsheets. I mean, this is late
Yeah.
80s, 90s. You're talking about spreadsheets galore, but it also told me that that's not where I wanted to live day in and
Mm,
day out. I understood you needed to do that, the value, making models and so on. But I wasn't just like a test tube. I didn't want to spend my time in the laboratory. I also didn't want to spend 8 hours, 12 hours a day mired in a spreadsheet. So,
right.
so so I got into um, uh, office products with Boise Cascade,
Okay.
general management out there on the West Coast. Was recruited to another office products company on the East Coast, and from there had sufficient now grounding in business where I can enter the management consulting field, and really there you really have another spurt of growth where each engagement is new, it's
Yeah.
different, and you're advising senior members of executive team. You're dealing with people in a distribution center or a factory floor, so you're dealing the entire spectrum and communicating and presenting findings and solutions that are going to be feasibly implemented as well as being bought by the senior executives.
So then this interesting thing happens is you get this massive chunk of years at this really small company, SAP. So and that as I read it, it's like 16 years or so at
Yeah,
SAP. So give me a sense of this. You get to SAP, or tell me a little bit about that, and then just give me, because I realize 16 years is a lot, but give me sort of the highlights, the lowlights, the major
yeah,
lessons in SAP, because SAP is not a slouch company. This is a global company. So you end up there. Give me a little bit of the story.
yeah. After doing consulting, saw an opportunity in the late '90s to start my own company with a colleague. So
Okay.
we started a software company, looking at supply chain, looking at so it's a technology based,
Oh wow.
and we used leveraged the knowledge that we had developed, and we were able to sell that company. We were acquired, and so I was the president. He was both co-founders, and uh, we're able to go through that successful exit, and stayed on with the new company for about a year, and decided that I'd like to spend a couple of years with the family. Especially the children, because we
Yep.
have been I've been gone so many times traveling and so on. You give up something. So I wanted to,
Yeah.
to make sure I was there, and did that for a couple of years. And but one of the things that I did before all that was a very uh, one of the very first successful SAP retail implementations in North America, and it was very well received. And I was in charge of the testing for the go lives and so on. So, uh, what you don't know through life is you build relationships, and you never
Yes.
know when these will pay off,
Yeah.
or if they pay
Yeah.
off, and of course you're helping people along the way as well. It's not just a
Right.
one-way street. So after those couple of years, I had a call, and one of the people I worked with during that time was now part of SAP, and they were building a practice around retail. And I got an invitation to, hey, come on down and apply, and I joined them, and it was a 16-year ride. Uh, so went from kind of looking at products where I was the owner of the grocery segment globally,
Okay. Yeah.
and which really means that you are looking at what are the solution set that you're offering grocers,
Right.
okay, from not just the HR financials, but also merchandising, supply chain, pricing, etc. Uh, so that, as well as I also had supply chain
Mm.
across retail for the Americas. So did that, and for a few years. Then after that, I actually was in charge of the business unit, retail business unit in the Americas. And from there, again, you don't know where things will go. And we had SAP was really pushing community building, virtual communities, and they were building something that they really wanted uh, consultants, partners, customers. They're all coming in here in this virtual community and contributing to it, adding knowledge and tapping into all the resources that SAP had. So I was in charge of being a champion for something like that,
Oh, wow.
which took me after a couple of years into communications, strictly looking at strategic communications, internal, external, for retail, then eventually to consumer uh, products and consumer sector, which involved multiple industries, and then the last 2 years or so across all of industries, supporting the co-presidents of industries.
Wow. So, and progressively, you're morphing from how I hear it. You're morphing from being someone who's focused on product to industry focus, but eventually you're in a communications
Correct.
focus where it's about how communications happen, how that
Yeah,
transpires.
executive communications,
Yeah.
internal communications in concert with HR, external communications with PR, crisis
Yeah.
communications. So and having that background around product, around going to market, around
Yeah.
customer facing roles, uh, it gave me insight and understanding about the narrative, the messages, and how to project the executives forward. How what's a good story, what's a not so good story. How do you support what you're trying to accomplish out in the marketplace, and so on.
So my question for you in that is, are you aware that you are becoming more focused on how stories are developed, how communication happens? Is that something that internally you're guiding yourself towards, or is it just people started recognizing you had an insight around that, you had a way of doing it? So is it something that you were determining, or is it like this superpower that other people were seeing?
It's both. It's
Okay.
being like co-created,
Yep.
and you don't and so we we like to think that we control where we're
Right.
going and what
Yeah.
but in
Yeah.
reality you influence that direction. But
Yeah.
the the opportunities you get, the conversations you get into, the relationships you people that you have, they
Yeah.
also bring you into conversations and opportunities that you would not have anticipated. So it's a question of you you're sitting at this table playing this game, and you're getting dealt cards. You have
Yeah.
but no one's telling you these are the rules. You get so many cards. Don't look or do look. You're just discovering
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the same time. So there's self-discovery as well as, you know, uh, taking opportunities, taking advantage of what's in front of you and deciding, you know what, this sounds intriguing. Let me go down that path a little bit more and see what that feels like. In
Yeah.
parallel to all that, I started working on a dissertation in the PhD program around 2009. So while all these transitions are happening, I'm sitting there also thinking about, okay, I want to get a PhD in organization, leadership, business stuff, things that correspond to what I'm doing. So, hey, things were pretty interesting for me.
Got it. So you got this whole big massive career. There's the initial one, and then there's SAP
Hmm.
rising right up to very senior roles in internal and executive communication. Um, but you're doing the PhD. So tell me a little bit about the PhD work. Tell me about what you're thinking. While you just insinuated there it's related, but what are you doing from a
Yeah.
PhD perspective? Where are you digging in? I'm really intrigued by this part of your story.
Yeah. So, one of the things I learned about myself is I get bored easily. I have to
Mm,
always be constantly learning, constantly
yep,
doing something that challenges mm, the way I think, whatever my beliefs. I've got to always be challenging myself and adding more knowledge.
yep,
So, um, so in that 2009 time frame or so, I was going to get a doctorate in organization and human organizational systems, but it was going to be around strategy formulation. So, and I was
oh,
looking at strategy as practice because in the historically, the McKenzies, the Bains, Boston
yep,
Consulting Group, they come in, smart people, but here's the the file, the
yep,
binders, and there it is. But by the time it's delivered, it's obsolete. Things have changed. And one of the things I really was intrigued with in my studies was something called the practice turn in sociology, where uh, uh, how you act, how you behave, how you think, the doing and the thinking, that they all really come together and they are situational. And you really need to kind of understand the objects, the artifacts, the context, and so on. It's not as simple as sitting down and saying, looking at a problem and coming up with a solution and typing it up and presenting to that. It's a lot more complicated, but yet
yeah,
the human element plays in that, and time is a construct in all of that. Um, so I had my dissertation laid out, my methodology and all that, and then something happened in January of 2011. Tahrir Square blew up, the Arab Spring, and so I was glued to the TV
oh, and this
watching
has
this.
deep significance for you because of your background.
Exactly. So, and
Yeah,
when I was in the Navy, also they sent me to Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, one of my favorite spots in the world, and I did a master's, and it was on the Middle East, North Africa. So even the Navy saw that also because of the
okay,
work I did when I was in the squadron, that they
right,
can benefit from that.
right, right,
Uh, so I had academic grounding in that as well. So looking at that, I said to myself, I have got to switch my dissertation. I can still be looking at things similarly around practice, but what happens um, uh, to society, change, crises? How do you transform? Why are things unfolding the way that they are? So I wanted to really focus around the Arab Spring, looking through the lens of the Egyptian experience, and I subsequently came up with the lens of nationalism to understand the unfolding. I wasn't out to explain why it happened. I was more interested to understand how did it unfold the way it did.
mm,
So more understanding rather than cause effect.
Got it. Okay.
But
So more
appreciation.
how the process unfolded versus the why it
Yeah, why
unfolded.
did it unfold the way it did? Why didn't it unfold differently?
Oh, got it.
You know,
Okay. And
uh,
so what was your thesis around that? Give me a sense of what that was, because I know this is a massive thing to talk about in a
yeah,
short period of time.
yeah,
But what did you come up with, or what kind of perspective did you take on that?
yeah. So the way I looked at it is really it's a contested futures. The future is really what is that's the battle. Everybody's battling for the future. What does that
Mm,
future of the country look like?
yeah.
So the title was Contested Futures: The Emergent Faces of Nationalism in Egypt, from Tahrir Square to Sisi's election. That 3.5 or so years. Uh, you know, you had four different forces: the Muslim Brotherhood, the military, the liberals, and really the women that were there
Okay.
during the Arab Spring, Tahrir Square, but they went missing. They did not share in that unfolding, and I put quite a bit of the material in the dissertation around that because it just goes to demonstrate the patriarchy, the nature of
Mm,
it in that society. And there, it's not to say that women are not respected. It's just that there's a role for them, and
right.
and they're expected to fulfill it, just like the man is
Mm,
expected to fulfill it. And even though you had an opportunity to really break barriers in many, many different ways through that experience at Tahrir Square. And during those 18 days, they did. But subsequent to that, that experience, that experiment dissolved,
mm,
dissipated. So, um, so looking at nationalism as then becomes the tool that the military will use to bring legitimacy to the things they're doing, that the Muslim Brotherhood tries to use to bring legitimacy, to that secular, the liberals try to use, and so on. And in the end, the military was able to make a more compelling story. And the story is not just a story; it's narratives, it's actions, it's behaviors, it's consistencies, and they were all, of course, helped by the missteps that were made by President Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood when they had the
mm.
opportunity to be in power.
So in that, though, something emerges for you because it's the story of what happens in Egypt, but there's something else that you're learning through this process or exploring and seeing. What's the I guess, and I have lots of friends who are PhDs, but I've never done one. But it's almost like you you get this focus you're in, but then you learn something as a result of it. That's just not the story that
Sure.
unfolded. It's something behind that. What's showing up behind
Yeah.
that? That
Yeah. So, so one of the things when you're doing a dissertation or a PhD is you've got to have a methodology. You've got to
right,
have, a research methodology that is uh, recognizable, credible, etc.,
yep,
and it adds value. It helps to explain,
right,
your dissertation, your points. And
yep,
and for me, I had looked at complex adaptive systems. I looked at historical sociology. I looked at a lot of different uh, means of looking at dissecting this.
yep,
But what really struck me was the power of something called critical discourse analysis, CDA, sometimes called critical discourse studies.
mm,
But that to me became a really powerful way of understanding the narratives, understanding uh, the relationship between power, authority, top down, bottom up. Uh, all those things that really come into play to understand how new vocabulary comes about.
Hmm.
how crises become increase the options that are in front of you all of a sudden. While
Ah,
before, when you have the status quo, everything is moving forward the way it is. Everybody knows how to behave. They know
right,
their place.
right.
They behave as such. The language they use is in concert and in conformity with their role, and so on. So the language in
Mm.
use is really guided and limited. When crises happen, real, fabricated, not what, when crises occur, all of a sudden those guidelines, the parameters expand. All of a sudden, things
Huh.
become more possible. So the potential increases.
And is that because language starts to change and there's new vocabulary, there's new ways of using vocabulary as just one point of that, but what's actually occurring?
So what's occurring is the possibilities. What is possible is goes
Mm,
beyond the norm,
right.
because once you have protests, all of a sudden there's new languages, new slogans that you're using, right?
Ah,
Okay, down with the regime, or and so on. So that that you know, a few months before, you'd have been in jail like that. But it opens up
mm,
vistas. It opens up opportunities that weren't there before. Songs become written that make poke fun at the authority, at the
ah,
current leaders. Um, so placards, signs, symbols, even Tahrir Square itself, the physical location becomes a new symbol. You know,
mm,
it becomes much larger in life than what it actually is, and
yeah.
the contest over who controls it becomes paramount regarding how you control the way the language
Mm,
is unfolding, the way symbols are perceived, and so
hmm,
on. So it's in anthropology there's something called liminality, where
yep,
you're going from one where
yep,
you are today to something else, and you've got to pass through this darkness, through this dark cave, and you need a guide of some sort. Well, when you're going through that, all rules are melt away, and you get an
yep.
opportunity to reestablish rules and reestablish new norms and behavior when you come out. Well, um, you so you've got to all those that are in charge today have to be aware of that and have to control that, knowing that they can't just stomp on it, but they have to jump in and play with it and guide it the way that they would want it to be guided. So
Mm.
that's what happens.
So I'm just and this is just me grasping at something, but you said earlier that strategy, which is often delivered by the big consulting firms, comes in a book. Um, and it's delivered to the company and you're just sort of supposed to follow it. But is it those don't get done because the liminality that you talked about, the words, the language, the practices, the importance of space or certain
Mhm.
symbols, is that why those often fall sort of on deaf ears? Is that why it doesn't really emerge to a new place?
They're a tremendous intellectual exercise, cognitively
Mm.
superior, but they are not rooted in the human factor. They're not
Ah,
rooted in the human experience. They are not uh, cognizant of. I don't want to use the term execution, but because it goes far more
right.
than execution. It is. It's
Yeah.
just. It's strategy is really should be a living, breathing, adapting, changing thing. It is not
Mm.
a one. It's in the military. You can lock on a target. You can set that target, fire and forget. And no, here you can't just fire and forget. You've got to constantly be engaged
Hmm.
and have that feedback loop and modify and adapt. And that can't happen through a 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, whatever it is, the study. It just, you've got to be writing it as you're moving.
Right, you're writing it, but it's writing you.
Yeah, there's nothing that you can do that doesn't also impact you in retrospect. Okay.
Right, but given your thesis or your
Hmm.
PhD work and
Hmm.
what you learned with Arab Spring and what happened in Egypt, when you translate that over into trying to change systems, you can have the theory, you can have the end goal, you can sort of set the target, but part of what's unfolding as I'm hearing it is the people that who are part of this system have to not just buy into this thing, that their language changes, the way they see the world begins to change. The that liminal space has to be transversed by people, not just by leadership.
That's correct. That is correct. Absolutely correct. It's everybody in the organization,
Right.
and they have to be brought along. They have to experience it. And by doing that, they will actually impact it as well. It's not
Right.
going to be the same as
Yeah.
as they thought it would be. So, uh, yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. So, how has critical discourse analysis, and the use of that structure, and also what you learned in your PhD work, how has it affected your own life? Like, how has that thinking and that awareness changed you and how you work or how you operate in the world?
Yeah, you become very sensitive and very aware of words, of
Oh,
ideas. You become aware of what comes out of the mouth of the CEO, what she puts out in a statement, um, what comes out during their quarterly earnings report.
mm,
Uh, all of a sudden, uh, each word is weighted. It has meaning, and it has to have relate to what's happening in the organization. There can't be a separation between how life really is and what's being stated. That So we talk a lot about transparency and authenticity and all
yep,
that. Well, I think people are more and more sophisticated in understanding those things, and uh, data, information, news, it's instantaneous. So when things aren't quite right, it becomes apparent pretty quickly. So uh, the language in use becomes even more critical, and I think that in order to you can't just have one conversation every 90 days with Wall Street talking about why your margins are up and how you're going to reduce costs and all that, and then turn around and be telling the people that you're not going to cut headcount, and that the two are
right,
connected, and you can't have two different kind of conversations and expect that you're not going to be found out. You're going to lose respect, you're going to lose trust internally, and you may not be believed credibly on Wall Street either. So internal conversation, the external conversation become really important.
right. So that's been a real focus for you. So where do you see companies, organizations making mistakes given this unique way you look at the world? What are companies getting wrong in terms of the way they construct their communication, the words they use, the narrative that they're expressing?
They really understate the effort it takes to get everybody inside a company to understand the mission, to understand where they're going,
Mm,
and thinking that they had it in a press release, or that they shared it during an all hands, or that uh, they put out an email, that's enough. You've got to repeat things over and over and over in different ways, different venues, before people start to say, you know what, maybe this is real. I've heard that before. Oh yeah, I remember that. And it becomes more internalized.
Uh,
Estimating the effort it takes to get the message internally understood, internalized, and lived.
right, and that live part is, if I am connecting the dots here, that live part is, the team, the people who are part of this organization are actually saying the words, maybe differently than you want them to say it, but they're saying the words that are aligned with where you're going. They're putting up their own placards, they're acting in certain ways that have become aligned or, have helped to realign the strategy document you put out in the
Mhm.
world or the strategy, but there's that ever present evolution, but and you need to keep talking about it because you got to get it into their language, into their way of speaking. Am I following
Yeah,
correctly?
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Uh, without without the um, without the the level below, the managers, the people that are
Yep.
actually getting the work done, if they don't feel that ownership,
Yep.
that belief, and they can tell when things aren't right.
Yep.
And right now, a lot of companies are going through a downsizing.
Yep.
Just a few months ago, they were talking about remote work, and that's the new way and all that. And lo and behold, now they're telling everybody you've got to come back to the office, or you've
Yep.
got to have at least 3 days out of the week in the office. Uh, Yet, when they get to the office now they've got to drive to the office there and back. They've got to spend more money on gas. When they're in the office, there are more distractions, you know, and they were getting a lot more work done before, and now they've got to find somebody to take care of the kids, maybe.
Yep.
So the whole idea, as if COVID never happened, and so on. So the point is, um, the credibility of the leaders is not just something that's tested once and you're done. It's
Yep.
ongoing. It's
Right.
that, and your workers are thinking about that and checking. Are you still being honest? Are you still being truthful? Is this just
Yeah.
BS or what?
Right.
Yep.
Right. Interesting. So, this show is about advisory boards, and not that
Yeah.
that matters, but how do you see this perspective that you have learned, that you have dug deep in? How do you feel like this now affects advisory board activity? How this language evolves, how saying it over and over again, but now throw an advisory board into the mix. How does what you've learned impact that?
Yeah. With critical discourse, I always think about different power relationships.
Mm,
When you're sitting in a room, the CEO says something and everybody kind of chimes along, or the chairman says something,
yep,
and so on.
yep,
Uh, that doesn't do anybody any service. So you've got to be able to open up that conversation. So being aware of the power relationships and the hierarchies, actual, perceived, whatever, they exist. Now, in a smaller company or business owner, you're going to have less of that, but you have to
yep,
still understand that when you say, this is where I think we need to go, it's going to be very hard for somebody that reports to you
yes,
uh, to, to, to tell you something different than that. They're going
right,
to have to dance around that to get
yep,
you to think about it.
yep,
That wastes a lot of time. It just doesn't do anybody really any favors. So that's one thing about critical discourse, that just to understand where you sit and what you say has an impact, and how do you purposely, intentionally get other voices into the mix. That's
mm,
important. That's one side. Just communication in general. Okay, so discourse, just having those conversations. It's important to have open conversations, whether you're with your board of directors, with advisory boards, with
yep,
your C-suite,
yep,
because that is how we validate information. That's how we understand. That's how we collect information. So all those things happen through conversations, and the richer the conversations, the greater the variety of the
Yeah.
conversations, the better everybody will be off, and that is really important. So bringing the different perspectives, being able to listen and be uh, not to squash points of views.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued by just trying to connect back to some of your unique perspective, which is how important is amplifying tension in a board setting in these deeper conversations or being a stable presence. Seems to me there's a tension that exists in being effective when you've got a person of power who's now put maybe equals or people who don't report to them in that setting. And I'm not even sure what I'm asking. I just feel like part of this perspective you bring is that there's sometimes you have to go through these liminal spaces to get somewhere, and sometimes somebody who has a like a CEO has a sense of this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there, this is why I think we should do this, and you put the right people in the room, some of them will amplify tension, some of them will be stable presence, but you've got to have that in the room somehow. I don't know. What do you think about that?
So the experience that I've had, it's there are times, moments when you do need to amplify tension.
Yeah.
Sometimes everybody's so in agreement that there's actually no tension whatsoever. And when
Right.
everybody's in agreement, that should be red flags.
Yeah.
There's something not quite right, because there's got to be some different perspectives in those conversations. So to amplify tension, as long as it's purposefully done
Right.
to uh, get a perspective heard, to get people to ask better questions,
Mm,
to explore things that are left unsaid.
yeah.
There's nothing worse than accepting unstated assumptions
Yeah.
and not surfacing them, because sometimes they're wrong. Conditions change in the market. Your business changes, yet your underlying assumptions that you've internalized all these years, if not decades, have not changed, and everybody's taking them for granted. How
Yeah.
do you bring them up without causing some tension? You have to.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
At other times, everybody is running around like chickens with their heads cut off. You've got to bring things down and calm things down, and just, hey, we're here. Let's focus on one question, on one thing. We're not going to solve everything. Let's not boil the ocean here. So you've got
Right.
to be able to assess. You've got to read, assess,
Yeah.
and really quickly figure out, which leverage you're going to push, how hard, and how loud.
Yeah. And it seems to me though, as you sit on boards, because I know part of your function now is to serve as an advisor, serve as a board member, serve in those capacities. When you come to these equations, when you come to the table, what unique perspective are you bringing? There's that you said earlier that you really hone in on the language, the way people use language. But when you're sitting around a board table, whether that be more of the governance style or more of the advisory
Mhm.
board, what are you trying to do? Like what's the function you want to bring? What's
Yeah,
the unique perspective you want to bring to the room?
yeah. Um, the world isn't short of smart people. These
Yeah,
boards, and they're well-meaning people, and so on. So it's not about being smarter than somebody else,
yeah,
or wiser than somebody else. It's really about looking at each situation as its unique self,
yeah,
and the things that we talked about in the military, leadership and camaraderie, but there's also a lot about analytical,
Mhm.
tools, about thinking, um, connecting dots,
Yep.
finding things that don't necessarily appear at first. So, and then of course you go through MBA, you're going to be strategy. So my value that I bring is really be able to bring a big picture, to understand the strategy, understand the capabilities and the capacities of the organization, where they're at and where they want to go, and what's the delta, what's the gap in that,
Yeah.
and make sure that there's understanding about the marketplace and whatever products or services that they're offering. Is there a good fit? And then if there's a good fit, how can we scale that profitably? So
Mm.
it's the is it the right model? Is it the right product market fit? Is it the right scalability? Uh, is it are the right people around the table in the
Yeah.
organization? And what's missing? What can be added? How can you boost this person or that person? So you're almost like cutting and slicing all at once and not losing sight of the minutia or the big picture, be able to do up and down. And then language just becomes a tool within all
Right.
that, for it being effective or not
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah, I just sense though that you are also I feel like one of the superpowers you bring is the ability to tie the language to the action to the thing just because that's an area of expertise you've built not just with your PhD work but with your history, right? So that ability to kind of sit in a space with both a company leader and other people and uniquely connect some of those interesting dots that you see that I suspect a lot of people don't
Yeah.
see just because of that unique background and perspective that you bring.
And action, w- that's at the end of the day, we got to come up with an action plan.
Right.
We got to do
Right.
something, okay,
Yeah.
and doing something, um, uh, to be able to articulate that and to be able to understand that, um, and measure that. Those are all very important things. But words, the thinking and the doing, the action to change. You're stuck in a certain tradition or status quo that you've got to make some changes. You've got to push and take specific actions that get you, uh, to where you'd want to be, where you'd want to go, and language becomes
Yeah.
an important tool, and a lever that should be used, that helps you get there.
Yeah. Delightful. I'm fascinated. I wish I could talk more hours with you because I feel like there's so much behind what we've already talked about in terms of how things work and how things operate and how the world unfolds. I love that concept of liminal spaces and how we get into situations ourselves where we have to process it, and sometimes we don't even have the words to process it, and until you get the words, you can't make sense of the world you're in because you don't have the words
Yeah.
for it even a lot
Yeah,
of times.
one of the biggest dangers I see with, certain, especially it comes with more business owners more so than in a C-suite, because they built a company, they've 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 invested their time and so on, that they feel certain about what they know what the problem is or something like that.
Yes.
But Max Weber, wrote something or said something, years ago, something like, doubt is the father of knowledge. I mean, you've got to have some doubt. If you're
Yeah.
so sure about something, you'll never learn something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll never learn anything new. So you've got to have some doubt. Otherwise, you're really in trouble. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yep.
Well, it's been delightful, and,
Likewise. Thank
like I
you.
said, we could go on, but, I feel like when I complete these conversations, I always like to just have a random set of questions to throw at you just quickly, just to, remind us that you're both the incredible, wise, person, and you're just human like the rest of us. So Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
iPhone. What's the book that has shaped you more than any other book?
Oh, wow.
If
Um,
if there
yeah,
could be one, I
yeah,
realize
yeah,
there's
yeah,
millions, but
yeah. There's a book that I read when I was going through Naval Postgraduate School, uh, that stuck in my head, and I even used it during my dissertation. It is by Karl Mannheim. It was written in 1936. It's called Ideology and Utopia, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
wow, wow. Okay. What was the first question you asked Chat GPT?
Um, how can we avoid World War III?
Oh, interesting.
It
Um,
was it was a lame response, but yes.
if you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would it be?
Oh, wow. John F. Kennedy.
Okay. Um, what's something outside your professional life, this very professional life that you're in, that you're irrationally passionate about? Like, what's the thing that outside of this world that we've talked about that you're crazy about? You're like, people would go, "Wow, that's interesting."
Um, wow. Day trading, stock market day
Really?
trading. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And if final question, um, what would your closest family members like? Maybe not your spouse, but maybe kids or siblings or something. What would they define, or what would they say you actually do in the world? How would they define what you do?
Uh, writes a lot. They'll just say he writes a lot.
It's beautiful. Mohammed, this has been an absolute joy. I appreciate your perspective, your wisdom, and thank you for taking the time to just share it with all of us. I think it's been amazing. So
Thank
thank you.
thank you, Tom, and thank you for allowing me to share all that with you and the audience. Thanks.